Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, welcome back to the course on architectural thesis. Today from this presentation onwards, we will see how to structure or how to prepare a report for the architectural thesis, because it is also one of the important deliverable of the thesis. So now let us look into the content of this presentation. So we will start with the recap of what we have learned in the previous presentation. Thereafter, we will also focus on the purpose of thesis report, like what is the need for the thesis report. Then we will also understand the structure of the thesis report, as in what are the contents that has to be added in the thesis. Thereafter, the key expectations and outcome of the thesis report, and at the end we will try to conclude this presentation. Then we will also see what all topics are being covered in the next presentation on architectural thesis report. So to give you a recap of what we have learned in the previous presentations, some insights were provided on how to use hierarchy, balance and alignment to create a compelling visual narrative on the presentation sheets that you prepare for submission. Also, we understood on how to use or explore the diagrams, charts and different annotations and the drawings, architectural drawings, to support the project story, and the typography and color enhances the clarity of your thesis report. Thereafter, some different types of scales, material for physical model along with the techniques for effective model making and display was also covered in the previous presentation. The power of 3D views, renders and digital simulations to communicate space, form and context was also discussed in the previous presentation. Then at the end we tried to understand how to plan and create animated walkthroughs for a dynamic and a very impactful presentation. So in all, these were the contents that were covered in the previous presentation. So now let us focus on the aspect of preparing the thesis report. So the purpose of thesis report is to organize and document the research and design ideas for making the process very clear, evaluable and useful for future study. So the purpose of report is itself is that it acts as some kind of document for the upcoming batches to refer, or for any other student from other institutes who would visit your institute for different studies, so or for different data collection purpose, or maybe just to see the reports or see the architectural thesis references from the library. So all these are the purpose of architectural thesis report, and it gives clarity of thought in architectural research, because not everything it is possible to mention in the sheet or explain through the sheet, because the presentation time that is allotted for a particular student during the thesis viva is just like 15 to 20 minutes, or at the max it is 25 to 30 minutes, not more than that. So within those limited time, it is sometimes difficult to explain the entire process that has been adopted in 4 to 5 months. So that is why we need a report which explains all the steps that has been covered in the during the process. It integrates the design process and analysis. So what all analysis and literature review has been completed, so it will lead to the design process obviously. So it gives a clarity in terms of these things. Then it provides a framework for evaluation. It preserves knowledge for future references, because once the thesis viva is over, your sheets either you will take it with you or it will be kept in a particular place, but it will not be kept in a display forever, isn't it? So that is why the reports are kept in the library, where any student or any visitor, if wants to see the presentation or the work of a particular student, so that particular person can visit the library and see the report. Then it is it is also an important part, which is structuring the thesis report. So how to structure the thesis report, what are the different contents that has to be there in the thesis report. So ideally the template is provided by the institute or the thesis coordinator to the students, but you can just see the basic aspects of the thesis report as shown in the presentation. So first it will have a front matter before the abstract being shown, which will include the cover page, the certificate, declaration, plagiarism report and all that, and then comes the abstract. So in some institute what they follow is they allow student to write the abstract of the thesis work. The abstract is basically a kind of concise summary of the work that student has done. So it is either it depends on the number of words that is being suggested by the institute, but ideally it is somewhere between 350 to 500 words abstract. And in some institute they prefer writing the abstract in English, because that is the medium of instruction all over in most of the architectural colleges in India. But in some institute the institute asks student to write the abstract in Hindi also, so that if any other student would like to refer to the abstract or understand about the project, so the student can read that same abstract in Hindi language also. So same goes for other regional colleges, where we can also write the abstract in regional language, so at least students coming from diverse background can understand the work, and at least later on, if they find it interesting or useful, they can just directly contact the author of that particular report. Then comes the introduction section, there in which we provide a basic background to what all is being covered in the thesis topic. Then the literature review. So regarding these things, it has already been covered in the presentation, what all are the different tools, methods of conducting literature review. Then the methodology, which includes the tentative flow chart that explains the process of the entire thesis work. Then the case studies, which also includes some different types of buildings, where the students generally they refer these buildings for their better understanding, and also they visit these similar typologies of the thesis topic that they have selected, and then they try to understand that what all different spaces are included in that particular building, how it is to be planned, what are the basic things that has to be mandatory in case of the particular typology, how the circulation pattern has to be there, what is the material used over in those case studies, and also understand the concept of basically the spaces, of how they are actually arranged within a building. So which spaces, the connectivity between the spaces, the movement between the spaces, the corridor spaces, the built spaces, unbuilt spaces. So all these details about the existing building is being documented and understood by the student, so that the student is fully aware of the demand that particular project will have while designing. So all these requirements have to be understood, area programming has to be understood. So all this is basically gathered from the case studies. Then is the site analysis, where you would visit the site and then understand the site condition. So based on that, you will be able to decide which like if you have multiple blocks within your built typology, so there probably you will understand that which block has to be kept in which direction or which part or which zone of the site. Along with that, taking a decision on the entrance, taking decision on the hierarchy of different spaces within the site, that will be understood. How will be the movement pattern, that means the pedestrian movement or the vehicular movement, so all that will be understood from the site. And also the major understanding will be related to the services. From where will you take the electrical supply from the existing supply route of electricity, or similarly it goes for water supply, drainage, and other ancillary services. So you will understand these basic aspects of the services from the site analysis itself. Then the stage comes that is the design development. So in this stage, after you have done all the previous studies like site analysis, case studies, methodology, literature review, introduction, so you will be able to now gather the understanding about the project. You will be able to come up with some concept on developing the design for the thesis topic. So this is what you will be explored in design development stage, and then at the end you will conclude the entire work. So you will write the conclusion over there, which will highlight the basic what all was covered in the thesis report, and what was the novelty that you could achieve through the thesis report, and all those basic details will be included in the conclusion chapter. Then at the end there will be references. So this is very essential, because this particular section of the report highlights the different sources that you have referred for your thesis report. So if any student would like to further understand about literature review, the case study, so if you have mentioned it in the references, so anyone who is interested in this topic can just look into the sources in the references, and then gather more understanding on the particular topic. So let us now try to look into each and every major aspect of the report. So let us start with the abstract. So abstract is a concise summary of the thesis. So it is ideally between 300 to 500 words, but it will be a detailed guideline related to abstract will be provided by your thesis coordinator or by the institute to you. So it is placed at the beginning but written at the end. So why is it so? Because abstract is basically the summary of the work that you have done. So abstract, if you try to write it at the beginning, you may not be able to understand what are the different results that you will get from your study. So how your plan or how your design of that particular typology will respond to the research question or to the hypothesis of your thesis. So this is why we usually write the abstract at the end, because abstract should also include part of your result and the implication of the study or the usefulness of the project. So this is why abstract is ideally written at the end, although it is placed at the beginning of the thesis report. So what all are the components of abstract? In those 300 to 500 words, what are the different components that you add within the abstract? So it includes problem statement. So it tries to provide you information about the problem statement. So what issue is being addressed is understood from the problem statement. So this is a kind of paragraph, an entire 300 to 500 word paragraph, which will include all these statements in order. So then we will mention about the research objectives, that is the goal of the study. Then thereafter the methodology is included. So what all different methods have you adopted for the data collection? So you will highlight that, and the approach and tools that were used. Then you will mention the key findings. So how your design that will that answers the research questions and hypotheses. So you try to provide the answer to this to the research questions. Then the the significance of the study. So contribution to architecture and the research fraternity. So how does your design, or how does the idea that you have used in your design contributes to the architecture and research is understood from this, from the significance. Then overall it serves as the first impression of the thesis document, because from this abstract one gets a clarity on what all different aspects of the particular topic is being covered, and which are left to the future scope of your of this particular thesis. So this is what is covered in abstract. Then as mentioned in the previous slides, we'll focus on the introduction section. So it sets the context and background. It presents the architectural, social or environmental setting of the study. So it provides before, because it is very difficult to directly orient any reader or any visitor who is looking into your report to the specific topic of your research. So before that, one is to set the context and background. So this is what is being highlighted in the introduction section also. Then we define the problem statement and the research questions. So it identifies the core issues and queries to be addressed. So basically it will include details about the location, details about the specific the topic that is going to be addressed. So all those specific aspects of the topic are being highlighted. So a basic introduction to the topic. For example, if you are working on a topic such as Women Rehabilitation Center, so you will provide some context and background. So you will provide some statistics, and then basically the need of this particular topic or this type of buildings is being highlighted, so that you set the importance of this typology. Then you explain the significance and relevance. So you highlight why the study is important within the architectural discipline. So how does the architecture of this particular building will help solve these different issues. So you will try to reflect upon these things in the introduction sheets. Then you specify the objectives and scope. So what are the aim and objectives of your thesis? You will highlight that in your introduction sheets, and then the scope of the particular project. So all these you provide, you will be able to provide it in a very limited information in the sheet. But when you will write in the report, you have to elaborate all these points, so that the proper justification to the topic is being is showcased in the report itself. Then you then this section also provides a preview to the methodology and structure. It outlines the approach and gives a roadmap of the thesis document. Then, as mentioned earlier, we will focus on the literature review. So review of existing knowledge and research summarizes the prior studies. So what all different studies has been completed in this topic. So that is summarized. The theories and architectural works related to the topic is being covered. So there are few books. For example, if you are working on hospital design, so already there are multiple books that are there available in the market, where you will understand about how to design the hospitals and what different trends are observed in designing the hospital. So probably in those books or report or in papers, you will find some research gaps that are highlighted. So you can focus on those gaps and then mention it in your literature review also, that such gaps or such areas are needed to be addressed in the upcoming projects or upcoming research work. So you are attempting the same through your thesis. So you like this, you have to come up at the end of your literature review. So identification of gaps and trends. So you will highlight what is missing or underexplored or evolving in the current study. Then some theoretical foundation for the study is also highlighted. It provides concepts and frameworks that guides the design and analysis for the thesis. So connection to broader academic discourse situates the thesis within ongoing architectural debates and global research. At the end of the literature review, you will conclude the findings from your review, and that will guide you to the next chapter, that will be the methodology. So on what basis you have selected the methods, on what basis a particular aspect of the project is being followed, so all this information will be gathered from the literature review section. So these same information will be used to prepare the methodology chapter. So methodology of a thesis report describes the systematic approach used to conduct research and analyze data to address the research questions. So the questions that you have framed for your thesis, so the same approach has to be followed here, and you will be in this, how you have achieved or how you have answered or what is the method that has been used to get the answers for the thesis report is being, or for the thesis aim is being showcased in the methodology section. So methodology chart provides a clear visual roadmap for the research process. It connects the research questions to the methods used and the expected results, ensuring a logical and coherent approach. So for example, this is already being shown in the methodology section, where all the different aspects of methodology is covered in detail. So your methodology will have the framework, it will have the details about data collection, then the data analysis stage, and at the end the results, that is the design for the particular building in form of plan, in form of site plan, section, elevation, views, and the model that is being prepared. Then the case studies. So these are some real world examples that you will select for your thesis to understand the details about the project. So the purpose is to learn from existing successful and innovative projects, study their design philosophy, planning strategies, identify the strength, weakness, and unique solutions for the particular project, derive applicable lessons and ideas to enhance the thesis design. Also it includes drawings, diagrams, photographs, and plans of the real world examples, so that all the decisions that you take for your design can be referred from the case study. So case studies provide you, it is some kind of example which you refer for a detailed understanding about the project. Then we focus on the site analysis. So it provides an understanding on the physical, environmental, infrastructural, and contextual aspects of the site. So it provides you information about the location and context, where is this particular project located, and what is the context for the particular site. So in which culture, topography, all this information is present. So this is what brings uniqueness to your project, because the each and every location or the context of the site has some uniqueness into it. So this is what brings evolves the unique design in your thesis project. Climate and environmental data is essential to make your building climate responsive. The topography, vegetation, and water bodies information about the site is understood from the site analysis itself. Infrastructure and connectivity, as mentioned earlier, it is essential to be studied from your site, so that all the services that you plan for your project is very systematic, systematically completed. Then the opportunities and constraints, so you will identify the advantages such as views, solar access or natural ventilation potential from the site analysis, and limitations like if there is a highway that is going near to your site, so there will be a noise that will be created continuously due to the moving of vehicles from the road. So you will take precautions while placing the blocks within your site. So likewise, zoning restrictions, flood risk, or site contamination, so all that these informations or the constraints that are there within the site will be understood from your site analysis. Thereafter, all these studies will lead you to the design development stage and this particular chapter. So it is the phase where initial ideas and concepts transform into architectural solutions. So conceptual development will be shown. So what is the concept that you have selected for the particular thesis project? Site and building zoning, so how it is done based on the concept or site analysis, so you will justify that. Space planning and distribution, so this is also focused by the bubble diagram or by the tentative single line plan that you have prepared for your thesis project, form and massing that you have selected for the project. So we will explain about all these steps in detail. Integration of research. So how does literature review have helped in selecting certain aspects or certain innovations in your design. So you will also focus on those and write it in paragraphs about these innovations. Then the presentation drawings will be attached. So you will paste the sheets that you have printed for your submission in the end of your design development stage. So at the end you will write the conclusion chapter. So this is the final section that brings together the overall outcome of the thesis. So it showcases the achievement of objectives, key research findings, contribution to architecture, limitations of the study, and recommendation for the future research. So what is the future aspect of future scope of this particular thesis is being highlighted over there. So then also, as mentioned before, so we will have a references chapter at the end of your thesis report, which will showcase the formal list of sources cited in the thesis. The purpose is to give proper credit to the original authors and sources, demonstrate academic integrity, supports the thesis arguments, and helps reader locate and further consult about the cited references. So the content type that is referred for the thesis includes books, journal articles, conference papers, reports, theses, the previous thesis, electronic sources, and the images from different sources. Each entry must provide enough detail to accurately identify the source and retrieve the information from that source. So the structure begins on a new page that is titled as reference. Entries are organized alphabetically by author surname. It actually depends on what referencing style have you referred in your thesis report, because as per the referencing style, that is APA, American Psychological Association, MLA, Chicago, likewise there are numerous citation style. So based on that, your reference section will also be prepared. Either it will be in a chronological order, the way it is being used in your thesis report consecutively. Similarly, it will be highlighted here, or it will be in alphabetical banner. So all this depends on the referencing style that you have referred. Then let us now look into the key expectation and outcomes of architectural thesis. So it provides a clear, coherent, and well supported arguments. Original analysis and synthesis is required. Research methods, so appropriate research methods have to be used, and it has to be used to achieve the aim and objectives of your thesis. Then deliverables should meet the academic and the professional standards that is set by the thesis committee. So at the end, to conclude this presentation, there is a requirement of preparing your thesis report in a very structured way, or else the information may be, it may not be able to be perceived in a very order, in a particular order. So without that, there will be some confusion within the reader about the different details of the project. So follow a structured and logical report format as given by the thesis coordinator. Integrate research with design and innovation. Provide a foundation for future exploration of professional practice in the thesis report. So in the next presentation, we will understand about the importance of chapters in reports and practical writing tips, how to write a compelling abstract and introduction. So detail about that, these aspects will be covered. Structuring the research background, aims and objectives and research questions. Mastering the literature review and proper citation techniques will be covered when you prepare these chapters in your report. And then essential key takeaways and useful resources will be covered in the next presentation. So these are some of the resources that are useful for more understanding on this topic, and with this I'd like to conclude the presentation. Thank you for your patience listening.